1. What are the crimes classified as provoking war and disloyalty in case of war? They are: number 1, inciting to war or giving motive for reprisals; 2, violation of neutrality; 3, correspondence with hostile country; 4, fighting enemy's country. And Article 119, violation of neutrality. The penalty of prison correctional shall be effected upon anyone who, on the occasion of war in which the government is not involved, violate, violates any regulation issued by complete authority for the purpose of enforcing neutrality. 2. What are the elements of violation of neutrality? Elements of violation of neutrality: number 1, that there is a war in which the Philippines is not involved. In Filipino, may gera na ang Pilipinas ay hindi kasali. Number 2, that there is regulation issued by complete authority for the purpose of enforcing neutrality. In Filipino, may patakaran na inilabas na may kapangyarihan para maipatupad ang pagiging walang kinakampihan ang Pilipinas. Number 3, that the offender violates such regulation. In Filipino, nilabag ng may sala ang patakaran na iyon. And number 3, what is neutrality? A national or power which take no part and contents of arm going on between others and referred as a neutral. In Filipino, ang bansa o kapangyarihan na hindi nakasali sa laban arms na nangyari sa pagitan ng ibang bansa ay tinatawag na neutral. Number 4, what is the most important thing to consider in Article 119 for us to consider that such a violation? There was a regulation issued by complete authority for the enforcement of neutrality was violated. So, in Filipino, mayroong patakaran na inilabas na ang may kapangyarihan para maipatupad ang pagiging walang salang kinakampihan ang Pilipinas na ito ay nilabag. In Article 120, correspondence with hostile country. Any person who in time of war shall have correspondence within the time an enemy country or territory or occupied by enemy troops shall be punished. So number 1, by prison correctional is the correspondence has been prohibited by the government. 2, by prison mayor, if such correspondence by carrier on in safer to conventional sign. And number 3, by reclusion temporal, if notice or information be given thereby which might be useful to the enemy, and the offender intended to aid enemy by giving such notice or information, he shall suffer the penalty of reclusion temporal to death. Number 5. What are the elements of correspondence with hostile country? Elements of correspondence with hostile country. Number 1, that it is in the time of war in which the Philippines is involved. Ito ay sa panahon ng gera kung saan ang Pilipinas ay kasali. And number 2, that the offender may correspondence with enemy country or territory occupied by enemy troops. In Filipino, ang may sala ay nakipag-ugnayan sa kalabang bansa o teritoryo ng tropa ng mga sundalo. So, and number 3, that the correspondence is either A. prohibited by the government, or B. carried on paper or conventional sign, or C. containing notice or information which might be useful to the enemy. In Filipino, ang ugnayan na ay alinman dito, ang A. ipinagbabawal ng gobyerno, o ang B. ipinadala sa pamamagitan ng sulat na may palihim na kahulugan o sa mga nakasanayang senyales, o ang C. naglalaman ng babala o impormasyon na makakatulong sa kalaban. C. What is the meaning of correspondence? Correspondence is communication by means of letters, or it may refer to the letters which pass between those has friendly or business relations. In Filipino, ang ugnayan ay pagsasabi sa pamamagitan ng sulat, o pwede din itong tumukoy sa mga sulat na pinapasa sa pagitan ng mga tao bilang magkaibigan o may pangnegosyong ugnayan. So, in Article 121, fight to enemy country, the penalty of arresto mayor shall be effected upon any person who, on knowing allegiance to the government, attempt to he or go an enemy country he prohibited by competent authority. 7. What are the elements of fighting to enemy country? So, elements of fighting to enemy country: number 1, that there is a war in which a Philippine is involved. So, in Filipino, mayroong gera na kung saan ang Pilipinas ay kasali nito. And 2, that the offender must be owing allegiance to the government. And Filipino, ang may sala ay dapat may obligasyon na dapat maging tapat sa gobyerno. Number 3, that the offender attempts to flee or go enemy country. In Filipino, ang may sala ay nagtangkang tumakas o pumunta sa kabilang bansa. 4, that going to enemy country is prohibited by contempt authority. In Filipino, ang pagpunta sa kabilang bansa ay ipinagbabawal na may kapangyarihan. And number 8, may an alien resident be guilty of flight to enemy country. An alien resident in the country can be held liable under the article. The law does not say not being a foreigner. Hence, the allegiance competent in this article is natural to temporary allegiance. So, in Filipino, ang dayuhang naninirahan sa bansa ay pwedeng managot sa ilalim ng artikulong ito. Ang batas ay hindi nagsasabing hindi isang dayuhan, kaya ang pagiging tapat ay binanggit sa artikulong ito ay natural o pansamantala ang pagiging matapat. And number 9, when can we say that the crime of flight to enemy's country is consummated? So, mere attempt to fail to go to enemy country consummate the crimes provided it is prohibited by contempt authority. So, in Filipino, ang pagtangkang paglayas o pagpunta sa kabilang bansa pa lamang ay masasabi na nitong kumplito na ang paggawa ng krimen na ito, pero kailangan na ito ay ipinagbabawal ng mga may kapangyarihan. And number 10, what does when prohibited by contempt authority mean? So, an Article 121 must be implemented by government if fleeing or going to an enemy country is not prohibited by competent authority. The crime defined in Article 121 cannot be committed. So, in Filipino, ang Article 121 ay dapat pinagtupad ng gobyerno kung ang pagtakas o pagpunta sa kabilang bansa ay hindi ipinagbabawal ay may kapangyarihan ang krimen na ipinahayag sa Article 121 ay hindi magawa.